It's Wednesday, May 8th. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. A 90-day extension of the state of emergency in St. James, Westmoreland and Hanover was approved in the House of Representatives on Tuesday after an extended session that ended after 8 o'clock in the night. 44 members of Parliament voted in favor of the extension and 1 against. 18 members were absent for the vote. The extension was supported in principle by both government and opposition members who argued that the special security measure was needed to curtail the uptick in murder since the start of the year. Prime Minister Andrew Holness said discontinuing the original SOE sent the wrong signal to criminals.
We have been noting with concern the recent crime trends in Western Jamaica, particularly in the parish of St. James, following the discontinuation of the state of public emergency in January 2019. We have seen through vivid demonstrations that criminals are hell-bent on exercising their destructive influence in vulnerable communities and spaces. Again, the criminal element have taken the opportunity to display their ruthlessness and total disregard to our most fundamental right, the right to life. So what we have is a systemic problem that is beyond the capacity of regular law enforcement to deal with, which we have to use the powers given to us by the Emergency Powers Act. We have to use it judiciously, and we agree with that, and we welcome the criticisms of the government that keeps us in line in ensuring that the laws are followed and abided by.
Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips also offered support for the extension and offered some suggestions to the government.
We always supported it.
Let's find the clip.
We supported it. We supported Zozo. We moved amendments to parts of it, and it was passed as a crime-fighting measure in this House with support from both sides of the House. If anything, we feel it has not been used enough. And we have voted for every extension of Zozo in the communities that have been brought to the House. Zozo
That you didn't want.
has some particular features which makes it, in our view, preferable as a long-term alternative to a state of emergency, and it delivers much the same things.
Murders in St. James have skyrocketed by 70% over the similar period of January to April 28 last year, following the end of the year-long SOE in the parish in January. Human rights advocate group Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, has urged the government to ensure that consultation is held with stakeholders on the announced reform of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the JCF. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang last week announced that the Mobile Reserve Unit is to be disbanded as part of major changes coming for the JCF. In a news release Tuesday, JFJ called for the reform to be transparent. JFJ's policy and advocacy manager, Monique Long, said the changes must result in a modern police service with a, quote, commitment to policing that anticipates and appreciates the human rights of persons, end quote. The government is projecting to spend between $27.2 billion and $31.2 billion over the next 5 years on public health infrastructure development. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tofton, made the announcement during his contribution to the 2019-2020 sectoral debate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday.
This, Mr. Speaker, will represent the largest investment in over 20 years in public health, and we are proud of it, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this is not a wish. This is not a wish. In fact, there are resources that are already in place So I say 5 years, but we have resources that where the expenditure will begin this year.
Some of the health facilities to be upgraded include the Spanish Stone Hospital at $3.1 billion, St. Anne's Bay Hospital at $463.3 million, Kingston Public Hospital Improvement Project at $2.3 billion, Maypen Hospital at $238.3 million, Cornwall Regional Hospital at $3.5 billion, and Western Child and Adolescent Hospital at $5.7 billion. Greater Portmore Health Centre, Maypen West Health Centre, Chapelton Community Hospital, Brownstown Health Centre, Mucko, Lioneltown and St. Anne's Bay Health Centres will all be upgraded. The minister also informed that a financing agreement valued at $100 million was signed in November last year with the Inter-American Development Bank to support public health. The health minister also informed Parliament that almost $1 billion Jamaican dollars has been committed to begin the process of installing health information systems.
50 million or 6.2 billion will be used to respond to the critical infrastructure needs in the areas of hospital beds, health center upgrades, and the implementation of health information system. By the way, Mr. Speaker, the health information system that I speak of will see integrated information systems for health, notably electronic health record system and the expansion of telehealth services in at least 3 health regions. And this is a start. That's the $1 billion expenditure which is in place. We will commence that process in due course this financial year.
Just to note, the Ministry of Health is now the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Portfolio Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton made the announcement of a change in name while making his contribution to the 2019-2020 sectoral debate at Gordon House on Tuesday. According to Dr. Tufton, the decision for the name adjustment was because health, as defined by the World Health Organization, is not only the absence of disease and infirmity, but a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. He noted that the move to rename the ministry was recently sanctioned by Prime Minister Andrew Holness.
Key dimensions of the wellness approach include not only the physical, mental, and social, but also the emotional, environmental, financial, intellectual, vocational, and spiritual. This focus on wellness, Mr. Speaker, is captured in the new name for the ministry, one I am pleased to announce today as sanctioned by the Honourable Prime Minister and the Governor General, the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
More Jamaicans are set to benefit from the National Health Insurance Plan. The government on Tuesday tabled a green paper proposing a compulsory National Health Insurance Plan that would offer equal benefits for contributors regardless of income. Financing for the initiative would be sourced from a combination of employee contributions or premiums and industry taxes. About 500 people of the 2.7 million people living in Jamaica have health insurance, leaving behind more than 80% of the population to fund health care out of pocket. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, told the press that rates to be charged and estimates of revenue to be raised were still being reviewed by Cabinet. Among the revenue sources the Ministry of Health has proposed are taxes on sugar and cannabis, raising billions to supplement healthcare costs. Dr. Tufton asserted the private insurance providers would act as a top-up in the system, as the services to be underwritten by the National Health Insurance Plan would be basic, although spanning preventative care, diagnostic services, and treatment. Child safety is the focus of this year's Labor Day and Workers' Week, which was officially launched on Wednesday at the Office of Prime Minister. Minister of Entertainment, Sport, Culture and Gender, Olivia Grange, outlined the 4 National Labor Day projects.
They are as follows. Holland Primary School, St. Elizabeth, renovation of pedestrian crossing, installation of sidewalks and bus lay-by on the side of the road opposite the school's gate. It is noteworthy that there have been a number of fatalities and near misses at the school over the years. Second, Barrett Town All Age John Wallins Primary St. James. Installation of pedestrian crossing across the main road and 2 pedestrian crossings across the local road. 3, Fair Prospect Primary in Portland, renovation of pedestrian crossing across the main road, installation of directional murals, installation of appropriate signage, and paving of sidewalks. And 4, Papine High School in St. Andrew, installation of pedestrian crossing on Gordontown Road, installation of pedestrian crossing along local road at Hope Gardens, repairing of local road and paving of sidewalks, and heightening of block wall and construction of chain link. The Papine project, ladies and gentlemen, will be led by the Honorable Prime Minister.
UNICEF Jamaica country representative Mariko Kagoshima spoke to the importance of this year's theme.
Many recent incidents of violence against children that have been deeply unsettling. We can all do more to protect children's rights. This year, we commemorate the 30th anniversary of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and it is a good time to strengthen our commitments and our partnerships for children.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness also underscored the need for greater public consensus on child safety.
Under the theme, child safety, it's you, it's me, it's all of we. The program for Labor Day and Workers' Week 2019 invites all Jamaicans to volunteer our services, talents, and abilities in support of the well-being of our children. The safety and security of our children must again be everyone's business. Many of us grew up on the African adage that it takes a community or a village to raise a child, effectively declaring the need for all of us to come together to safeguard the future of our children as the basis of national development. After all, the most profound definition of sustainable development is the creation of mechanisms today that will benefit our children tomorrow.
The month of May is globally recognized as Child's Month. The nation observed Read Across Jamaica Day on Tuesday, May 7, and Prime Minister Andrew Holness took time out to sit and read with students at Mona Heights Primary School in St. Andrew. Mr. Holness engaged the students as he read to them from the Buff Animal Tales series. He also donated several books to the institution, for which Principal Fabian Mahiba was very grateful. After a week-long strike that saw members of the University of Technology's Academic Staff Union staying off the job, the union has temporarily halted industrial action, having accepted an invitation from the management of the university to join them in attending a meeting at the Ministry of Finance and Public Service on a Friday. The meeting is being held to facilitate discussions between the university management and the finance ministry on the government's subvention to the institution. Last week, UTASU members went on strike, demanding that salary adjustments outlined in the 2015-2017 Heads of Agreement signed in April 2017 by the university management and the Education and Finance ministries be implemented. New details about the construction of a perimeter wall at the Petrojam refinery emerged at Tuesday's sitting of the Public Accounts Committee, PAC, of Parliament. An audit report from the Auditor General's Department showed that Petrojam backed out of a $29.8 million contract with the National Works Agency, the NWA, to build the wall, and instead hired a private contractor for $96.8 million to do the same project. The private contractor was identified as Construction Solutions Limited, the entity which got the lion's share of the government's $600 million bush clearing program in 2016. According to the AGD, Construction Solutions used the direct contracting emergency method and the switch of contractors ended up costing taxpayers approximately $67 million. Permanent Secretary in the Energy Ministry, Carol Palmer, said her search for documents to support the switch from the NWA to Construction Solutions has turned up empty.
I was looking for documentation, but apparently it's not in the bundle.
She also said she has not been able to find the cabinet submission for the contract. The Permanent Secretary did find a trail of emails between former General Manager Floyd Grindley and former Procurement Manager Chevril Shaw regarding the switch of contracts.
I did read an exchange of emails between the General Manager and the former General Manager and the former Procurement Manager, or I don't remember the titles, but there was careful note being made of following the procurement process. The officer pointed out to the General Manager that the Works Agency provided the most efficient means of getting the job done. Then as I read on, the emails saw her being instructed to proceed as was directed to this other entity. I asked, and there is no documentation that I've been able to find to provide the justification for the change, nor does there exist anything that gives me the process that was entered into to arrive at the change of provider of the service, nor is there anything that describes that it is an emergency.
The Bank of Jamaica's daily foreign exchange trading summary notes that the US dollar on Tuesday, May 7, ended trading at Jamaican $137.06, up by 83 cents. The Canadian dollar ended trading at Jamaican $100.78, up from $98.31, while the British pound sterling ended trading at Jamaican $178.26, up from $173.43. In regional news, Grenada has been added to the list of shareholder governments for LIAT. Minister of CARICOM Affairs Oliver Joseph made the announcement at a recent press conference.
And I'm pleased to announce that Grenada is now the 5th shareholder in the airline. So together with the governments of Barbados, Antigua, Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada at that meeting is now accepted as the 5th main shareholder in LIAT. What that means, it means that the government, cabinet has taken a decision to continue to support LIAT. When we look at the figures from the number of passengers that LIAT brings to Grenada, of course the multiplier effect is great. LIAT brings in thousands of visitors to Grenada every year. And therefore, from an economic and social point of view, Grenada had to support LIAT, because not supporting LIAT will mean the loss of revenue and economic development to our country. Grenada pledged to continue supporting LIAT, and a number of models have been examined. I say the minimum revenue guarantee is one of them. So it's based on a load factor. So that if a flight from, say, Grenada to Trinidad or Grenada to Barbados is not selling as it should in terms of their number of seats, what we're saying is that we will contribute to the seats, that's why it's called the load factor, to enable the flight to still operate between Grenada and the destination that is going to. And that is a model we think that is fair. If we want to keep the LIAT flying and they keep losing on the different route, then they would obviously, in the restructuring process, they will have to cut some routes. At the meeting, really, they insisted that the LIAT should operate as a business and that the operation should be restructured. And so, as a shareholder, we'll make our voice heard at the board meeting.
In Belize, the ruling United Democratic Party says it is prepared for Wednesday's referendum when Belizeans will vote on whether or not the country should take its long-running border dispute with Guatemala to the International Court of Justice.
It's a pity that it has had to come down to this. This whole business started as a national effort, a national decision to negotiate the special agreement and agree on a referendum to determine whether to go to the ICJ. But clearly, things have become embroiled in the partisan mix. The activities of both parties on that day should help us to have a respectable turnout. The only regret is, as I say, that it isn't that both parties are trying to bring out their people to vote in the same way. And for me, that way could only properly have been yes.
In sports, the Jamaica Football Federation is on the cusp of signing a deal with top-tier Italian club AS Roma that could open the door for a high-level training for Jamaica's coaches while fostering youth development. Yesterday, a JFF team led by President Michael Ricketts met with representatives of the Rome-based professional football club for discussions said to be nearing an official agreement. Ricketts is quoted by the Jamaica Observer saying, "We're trying to forge a relationship with AS Roma in keeping with the JFF mandate of developing our youth programs." End quote. Jamaican Olympians Kamar Bailey-Cole and Ristinana Tracy have announced their engagement. The two have been in a relationship since the year 2009. Bailey-Cole, the 2014 Commonwealth Games 100 meters champion and an Olympic and World Championships relay gold medalist, posted a picture on Instagram of a diamond ring on Tracy's ring finger against the backdrop saying the words, "She said yes." And that's the news on PBCJ. Remember, PBCJ is the people's station.